Okay. So we started, you were able to start the recording, right, Elizabeth? Okay, perfect. Okay, so hello, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's coming back, and hello to anyone who is new. I am Megan, and I will be presenting to you about some mental health basics. Yeah, so a little info about me. I'm a graduate intern at the Student Wellness Services Center at the Evergreen State College, and my supervisor is here. Her name's Leslie Johnson, and I'm also here with a fellow intern, Ryan. And yeah, so if you have any questions, there's plenty of us here, so go ahead and ask. And all right. So starting off, what does mental health mean to you? Like, what have you heard about it? You know, there's a lot of different interpretations, a lot of opinions. What have some of you heard about mental health, or what are your beliefs about it?
It's like how you feel.
Or how you think.
Yeah, how you feel or think. Does it have to be a particular, like a positive feeling or a positive thought or a negative thought? Or is it just any thought or any feeling?
Any thought, any feeling. Be like sad, mad, happy, angry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty much a good explanation of it. And to kind of start off, we're going to explore stress a little bit. We're going to talk about it and what is it, first of all. So, how many folks here are familiar with stress? Yeah.
Yes.
All of us. So basically, stress is a response that is also called fight, flight, or freeze. And it's kind of a response to a threat in our environment, at least in the old days. And it triggers a surge of adrenaline, and it can affect our nervous system. And we can also feel physical symptoms like increased breathing, fast heart rate. We can get kind of shaky in the knees, and we'll get all sweaty, or we'll feel tense, nervous, on edge. And it can, you know, it's a pretty common feeling nowadays, you know, like let's say you got a bad grade on a test and your parents don't know yet, and you have that stress on your shoulders of having to tell them. That's pretty, I'd be nervous about that. I don't know about anyone else, but I'd get kind of sweaty palms. But has anyone ever, like, does anyone want to share a stressful experience that maybe caused them to feel some of these symptoms?
Sometimes when I'm like cooking for my whole family, I stress out thinking I'm taking too long and that they're gonna get upset that it's not done in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have some pressure to get the noodles cooked, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so someone wrote,
Yeah, in the chat.
Angie wrote, closing the store by myself. Okay, so would that look like, I don't know what kind of store it is, but do you have to like?
It's a big grocery store, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does sound stressful. So there's a lot of different things that you have to worry about.
Yes, yeah. Grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a big task, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, a lot to keep track of. And, you know, even with cooking, right? And the expectation that it needs to be ready at a certain time, and you know, that especially if you're supposed to keep to a certain schedule. And if you forget anything, you know, how is that going to affect the people around you? That can be really stressful. Having to go to something important the next day and not being able to sleep. Yes. Yes. The fear of what could happen or the stress of what might happen the next day at that important event could make it really hard to sleep. Yeah, thank you all. Those were really good examples. Oops, I'm typing in the chat, not what I wanted to do. Okay. So moving on, I'm hoping you all can't see the chat box. Is it in the way of the presentation? No? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So looking more into what stress is, the situation doesn't have to be dangerous, kind of like what we already talked about. It's just like, it can be everyday pressure that activates that stress response. And it's supposed to help you perform well under pressure. And it helps you rise to the challenge with alertness, focus, and strength. So it's supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to help you achieve more and be better. And when thinking about that, like maybe you have a game, I don't know if anyone's in sports, or a presentation coming up, and that stress of that presentation, that adrenaline rush can help you perform even better. And so it doesn't have to be a bad thing all the time. And sometimes we can, misunderstand stress and excitement, and anxiety and excitement can kind of be a similar feeling, we can get really excited and then also feel kind of anxious. Leslie?
No, don't worry. I'm just blasting myself around the ethers here.
Oh, okay. Was there something that you wanted to say?
I was just going to say that animals have this figured out, but humans don't. Animals will be very stressed. They'll get into fight or flight because something is chasing them that probably wants to eat them. And so that's a good thing. But when that danger disappears, they instantly calm down, they lay in the grass, they eat, they rest. But humans have a hard time turning that off. Nothing in us says we're out of danger, especially for emotional stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what should happen, kind of going off of what Leslie said, what should happen, or hopefully will happen after that event has passed, is you should be able to have an opportunity to relax and recharge. There should be, it shouldn't be constantly feeling like you're stressed about that event all the time. And yeah, sometimes it can feel like it's hard to turn off that feeling of stress. And nowadays, with all the screens and, feeling pressure from family, friends, school, COVID, all that stuff, it can feel like, we're on stress all the time, so it can feel pretty rare to find that opportunity to recharge. So going forward, so let's talk a little bit about what makes something stressful. So different situations, something that has strong demands. So parent expectations, I think someone touched on that earlier with cooking, right? If you're cooking a meal for your family, you have some parent expectations to get that done at a certain time to feed the family. And that can be stressful. Situations that are imminent. So if you've lost a loved one or a friend, or if maybe someone moved away that you really care about, that can be really stressful. Life transitions like graduating or moving to a new town. Uncertain situations or adjusting to a new environment, new teacher, new school, that's stressful. And even desirable stuff, right? So like maybe you're going on a first date. That can be kind of stressful. Like, what questions am I going to ask? Who is this person? Are they going to like me? Am I wearing the right tie? Am I wearing the right pants? Those are all normal questions, and that's not a bad event, right? That's exciting. And then having or feeling like you have a lack of control over life situations. Perfect example would be COVID, right? We have absolutely no control over this, and it feels chaotic most of the time, if not all the time. So, this past year, probably a lot of folks are feeling like they can't really turn off that stress. Is there anything that sticks out to anyone on this slide, or any questions that anyone has so far? No.
I think it's important to highlight that the good things cause stress.
Mhm.
That was really surprising to me. Like that important thing that's the next day and you can't sleep. Like that just resonates so much. Like, oh man, I can't wait for this thing, but I better do it right.
Mhm. Yeah.
I remember once I was going to a prom with this guy and I really liked him. And I let my mom talk me into going to the beauty parlor. And they did my hair and it was like this big, huge bouffant thing. It was scary looking. And I'm pulling away and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to go home and wash my hair and it'll be all right. And all of a sudden in my rearview mirror, I see the guy I'm going to go with and he's following me.
Oh,
He wants to talk. There's no way I'm going to let him see me like this. I almost wrecked my car fishtailing down an alley. And I mean, I don't know how fast I was going, but he did not catch up to me. And I was looking forward to it. It was fun and exciting, but super stressful too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I think you're right, Ryan and Leslie, that even desirable situations, or good, positive, important, not necessarily negative situations, cause stress. Even applying for college, right? The pressure from parents to go to college, and then there's the expectations to fill out the form to go to college, and the FAFSA, and all those little things. And college is a good thing, right? You're moving forward in your life, but there's a lot of stressful things to remember, to make sure that you fill out and have in order. So yeah. Moving. Oh gosh, am I typing in the chat again? Hang on. Okay, here we go. So we experience two kinds of stress. And I'm curious, has anyone here heard of eustress or distress before? Nope. Okay. So kind of, oh, hang on.
Thank you.
Aha, Angie. Angie has. Okay. What do you know about it? Okay.
Now, in all fairness, you did just ask her if she heard the word.
Yeah, that's
True.
true.
Very true.
That's true. No pressure. I think we've already kind of covered it, right? Eustress is just another word for good stress or stress that benefits you. It's just a mild feeling of stress, and it's used that feeling is used to motivate or focus your energy, and it's a short-term feeling, and it's within your coping abilities. So it's something that you can handle on your own. It's something where, like, maybe taking some space from family or friends for a few hours and just kind of writing in your journal, going for a walk, playing with your dog. All of those things can help you de-stress from whatever stressful event this would be. And it can even feel exciting, like I said earlier, and it improves your performance. Hold on a second. Yes. And maybe techniques that help your mental health. What do you mean by that, Angie? Oh, okay. Alrighty. So yeah, so playing a game would be an example of that. The excitement of, am I going to win or lose with my team? Preparing for a presentation, studying for a test, all of that is an example of eustress. And then distress works against you. All right. So this is outside of your coping abilities. It's the stress that you can't turn off. It feels really unpleasant. It doesn't help you at all. It doesn't make you perform better. It actually makes you almost perform worse. It makes you feel like you have maybe are unable to meet the expectations of, that you can normally meet with family or friends. Like maybe the stress of getting a good grade in class is causing you to not be able to finish all your chores at home, or you're not able to be the friend that you would like to be to your best friend and be there to support them, because you're worried about school. And then, depending on how long this stress lasts, it could lead to, more increased mental health or physical problems. Yeah, so can anyone think of any examples of like eustress or distress that maybe I haven't touched on or that they've experienced personally?
Maybe graduating high school or graduating college.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Getting those final assignments and classes done, or things that you have to get done before you're able to finally achieve that. Thinking of what you're going to do after.
yeah. Graduating high school is a huge transition.
Mm-hmm.
You're not only moving out of most likely moving out of your family's home, or maybe not, maybe you're staying with them and then figuring out how you're going to go to school, college, and work and be with your family and manage the family system that you have going on there. But it's a big transition in life. You're going to a new chapter. So yeah. Anyone else?
I could say that in my bouffant story, it was probably eustress when I saw my hair, because I thought, well, I can go home and just wash it and it'll be fine. But when I saw that car in my rearview mirror, I went right into distress
You're feeling very distressed.
and reacted in a way that was later on. I was dreading him coming to pick me up because I knew he was going to say, "What were you doing? You were like almost wrecked your car trying to get away from me."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be both things.
Yeah. Okay. So moving forward, let's talk a little bit about what causes stress for you right now. We talked about closing the grocery store or cooking dinner for family. Is anyone here nervous about graduation?
Not really.
No? Okay. Okay. What about eustress? Are you excited? Are you feeling like kind of stressed, but like it's a good stress, about graduation?
Maybe COVID and graduation.
Hmm?
Maybe like how COVID will affect it.
Oh,
That kind of uncertainty, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like that, but yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, it's awesome.
Oh, good. That's awesome, Angie.
And I think that's a good example of the eustress, right?
True. Everything's done. You
there
did
was
it.
there was an energy behind. I gotta get all this planned out. I gotta get this done.
Mhm.
Ooh, and you're a class speaker. Yep. It's yeah, the eustress caused that motivation. That's a good point, Ryan.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah. And it improved your performance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great example of eustress. But yeah, COVID, and how it will impact graduation too is a good point. Is it going to be via Zoom, or are there only a certain amount of people that we can invite? Like what is it going to even look like? Um, so yeah, those are all great points. I made a table of other things, that could cause it. I don't know if anyone feels, uh, you know, open enough to want to share if they've experienced any of this stress. But I think probably for me personally, one of the most stressful things is moving.
Yes.
Um,
I
yeah.
agree.
Yes. And I think being an intern and knowing that graduation is on the horizon, I know Ryan and I probably have some stress about that. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but I think for me personally, it's more of like a stress, like Angie had mentioned, that good stress that promotes that good performance.
And getting stuff done for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
On this, I'm seeing a change in eating habits causing stress, and I never even thought of that.
Mhm.
That what you eat and what you put in you can affect your mental health.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah, I think I definitely can relate to that one.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think somebody just joined too.
Madison, hello. Welcome.
Hi, Madison. I don't know. We have another intern named Madison too, and I don't know. Okay. Did anyone else have any questions or comments about this slide?
I think
Nope.
it's
Sense.
Okay.
let's see.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay. So when thinking about stress, I think, it's important to remember that it affects our whole system. When you're feeling stressed, especially for long periods of time, your immune system can get a little weaker, and you might feel some fatigue or headaches, or you might get frequent infections and tension, or and it affects your mind. You're always worrying, or you're having difficulty remembering things, or thinking about the future, or planning something. It may cause nightmares. You may have nightmares about that presentation you have to do. Worst case scenario, maybe you show up without your pants. Oh my God, I'm doing this presentation in my under in front of everyone. Everyone knows about that, right? Okay. And then hasty decisions. It can affect your ability to make, well thought out and planned decisions. Sometimes when we're really stressed, we're like, I don't know what's best for me, so I'm just going to go with A or B. It affects our behavior. We may be more accident prone, or we are not being able to sleep, or we're really restless, and or over and under eating. And we may not be, and it affects our emotions. We may not be feeling as confident, or we're grumpy all the time, or we're anxious, or maybe even feeling a little bit of depression. So when thinking about these feelings, like maybe about, does anyone relate to any of the feelings more than others? Like, does that, like, Does anyone notice if they feel more of the emotions rather than the behaviors or the mind or the body? Does anyone notice when or where stress impacts them?
For me, it's all together. Kind of gets all tangled in one, or maybe I'll be really worried and then I'll get a headache and then I'll change a behavior because I have a headache, and then an emotion, and then it's kind of can be a negative loop, or can turn it into a positive loop.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was going to say basically the same.
Yeah.
And Angie's saying the same as well.
Yeah.
You know, the loop of like, I'm stressed, I can't sleep, so I wake up and I'm grumpy, and because I'm grumpy, I'm gonna avoid people, and because I've avoided people, I'm gonna feel sad. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
So true.
Yep.
I think with COVID too, we've all been stressed out for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And part of that stress has been, it's been so hard to figure out what's happening. When are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to have a graduation? Are we going to be able to walk? You know, what is happening in the future? How do I plan?
Yeah. You know, and it's important to remember to keep that in mind, right? If stress is impacting you, like where is it impacting you the most? Are you finding yourself like if you're feeling anxious, so because you feel anxious, you feel this desire to overeat, I don't know about anyone else, but sometimes I like to eat little sour gummies if I'm feeling anxious. Yeah. And then, I might have nightmares about what's making me anxious, or I'll get headaches from the gummy worms that I ate, like who knows? But yeah, so thanks for sharing, everyone. I really appreciate how involved everyone is. It makes me, thank you. So moving forward.
I'm sorry, my internet was really bad and I left.
Okay, no worries. Did you need me to repeat anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
I've only gone for like a minute.
Okay, well, welcome back. We're gonna
Thank you.
We're gonna talk more about anxiety. So, what is it? So, without reading the slide, how is anxiety different from stress? Does anyone know?
I think that when we as humans first had anxiety, we had to have it. That's why we didn't pick a fight with a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
Because we're like, I feel a little anxious about this. This might not be a good thing. Maybe I should run and hide instead. And as we evolved, that system still exists, that alarm system. Only now it gets triggered by emotions and by things that happen, and not just by wild animals chasing us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really hard question, right? Because stress and anxiety are so similar.
Yeah.
They really are. And I mean, when you think about both stress and anxiety, they're both kind of ignited by the fight, flight, or freeze. So a lot of your symptoms when you have stress are going to mimic the symptoms of anxiety as well, and be the same. And it'll be really hard to figure out sometimes, but it's a normal human reaction. And it's there to help you perceive danger or threat, and to protect yourself. And it is helpful to a point, but if it doesn't turn off, if that feeling of anxiety and worry and that alarm system doesn't turn off, it's going to have an impact on your mental health. And that could be a potential for like maybe an anxiety disorder or something.
If you think about somebody scaring you, like have you ever had somebody like jump out of a closet, or
Yeah.
of course I'm just thinking about my childhood.
Yep.
Hide under your bed, and as you flip off the light and leap through the air to go to the bed, they reach up and grab your ankle. And I've experienced this fight, flight, or freeze. The fight was pretty much just slapping like this and screaming. And the flight was just running and not even be able to think, just running. But the time my ankle got grabbed, I just froze. I just froze. So all those responses we can't really predict.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Thank you, Leslie. Does anyone have any questions about this slide before I move forward? No? Okay.
Nope, it's all good.
Thank you. So how do we identify when stress turns into anxiety? When it becomes uncontrollable. It's time to talk to someone that you trust. And it'll feel like you're constantly worrying about the future, or it could be a lot of things. The future, what ifs, am I going to be able to do, pass this class or get into this school, or show up for this person's, thing, or, it could be uncontrollable worrying about, COVID, am I going to get sick? Is my family going to get sick? Am I going to lose a close friend or family? And it could just always be feeling like that constant fear or dread that something might happen. And when you notice that it's starting to impact your academic and personal life in a negative, significant way, like your grades, or you're not talking to your friends really at all, you're not going out, or you're feeling really, you're having a hard time making those social connections with your friends, that may be a sign that you should talk about what you're experiencing and share it with someone that you trust. And then, again, with the physical, your body's going to have a reaction when you're stressed, right? Like Leslie said, when someone jumped out and scared her, do you think she turned into Jello and like did this? I don't think so. She probably went like this, right? She tensed up, and with anxiety, you're always going to feel tense. And so you might feel like your shoulders are tense, or like your neck's tense, or you're going to be doing this. And, those are, or headaches. A lot of folks with anxiety or stress experience headaches too. So these are all good signs to kind of keep an eye on. Does anyone want to add anything or any questions before I move forward?
I can definitely relate with the anxiety and the headaches.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I get the headache, I realize, oh, I've been really anxious today, and I wasn't even aware of it up until that point, or sometimes later on. So trying to even bring to notice that before I get to that point. Okay, is there anywhere in my body where I can relax, where my muscles are really tense right now, before I get to the headache point? So we can kind of stop that negative loop before it becomes a loop.
Yeah, that tense feeling begins to feel so normal.
Yeah.
It's easy to ignore. I mean, it's not easy to ignore because it creeps up on us, but it's easy to not feel.
Oh, Eli, never been stressed or had anxiety. Wow, well, you're really lucky.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're really lucky. I was stressed most of the time growing up, I think.
Me too.
Every time I had to try something new, and sometimes meeting new people.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You are, Eli. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So moving forward, how to tell if I'm having anxiety. We've kind of touched on that. Excessive fear or worry, nervousness. Maybe it's like constant, you can't turn it off, even if you're trying to go to sleep, and it's affecting your ability to do normal day-to-day stuff. And you're feeling really super aware of what people are saying or what people are doing, and just everything in your environment that you're noticing. And that could be like, oh, that conversation I had with Leslie made me feel like, why did I say that? Or what did she mean by this? And, am I gonna, get fired? Like, who knows, right? That your worrying could be anything.
Yeah.
And then because of that, like kind of negative fear that's kind of cycling, you might become really irritable, snappy, or distant with people, and not really know or remember or not remember, feel like you can make those connections with the folks around you. Yeah. So looking at the time, I just want to make sure we have time to cover everything. So I'm going to move forward. We're going to talk about depression. Not so. So what is depression? So I know some folks here have talked about their stress and maybe some anxiety or not having that. And that's great. I really appreciate that. Does anyone, are they familiar with depression, or do they know anyone who's experienced it?
I'm familiar with it, and
And
I know a lot of people who experience it.
Okay. Um,
Like my mom, I know she has a little bit of depression. My brother, a couple of years ago, he had really bad depression, and I know I have depression. So
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate you sharing. Are you okay with, or is anyone okay with sharing like what depression feels like for them or what they've noticed in others?
really just don't want to do anything is really what it mainly is like. Just
Mhm,
don't have that. Don't. I feel like I just don't want to do anything ever.
mhm, mhm.
Um, I I- hold on. Okay. So when I get like really down or like feel like some like wave of depression is coming, I just like to like sit, like lay on my bed like the whole entire week or a couple days, and then like not like to do anything because I feel like I can't do anything, and like small tasks become hard tasks, and so it's hard to get up. But then I have like people who remind me to like to get up, and like it's not all bad, and kind of like dumb down the problems, and so that I realize that it's okay. So then like I can pick myself up. But yeah, but when I'm in those really high times of depression, I just feel like I can't do anything. And sometimes I just think of stuff that's like really sad, and then yeah, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think when depression hits, it can affect our thoughts, and we might get stuck in this loop of negative thoughts. And then it makes us feel even worse because we have no energy to get up. So we feel even worse about ourselves and the world. And it could just, it's like Eeyore, right? It's just, you have this rain cloud over your head all day and you just feel sad all the time. And yeah, so great examples. Thank you. I see that Angie said, I think I have high functioning depression or anxiety. That's a great insight. And how does it feel to have that?
how did you recognize that?
you shared a post to explain it. Was it on here or somewhere else?
Yeah, to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, if you're
To Elizabeth.
Oh,
with
okay.
us,
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, she shared a post with me on Instagram. Okay. Yeah, so there's, do you
Is that
want
a
me to screen share it or something? High functioning anxiety, what people see versus what people don't see. What people see organized and motivated, meets deadlines, productive, helpful, appears calm, hardworking. What people don't see, a fear of failure, self-doubt, anxiety, a need for control, racing thoughts, the fear of asking for help.
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, these are great examples of
Yeah,
like just exactly right.
Mhm. Yeah.
that's a great description.
Let me see. You full-blooded. Let me see. Let me roll you over and see. You full-blooded.
Yeah, it helps see that, and if you identify it, it helps you know who you are. It kind of puts words to it.
Looks
I
like
don't know if someone
Madison is unmuted.
on or if their mic is on, or
Madison, can you hear us? We're having trouble hearing you, so if you were trying to share something, maybe you could try it again.
I think chat's a good option for communicating as well.
Mhm.
In this.
Another thing that Angie's post said is those who have high functioning depression also often feel like asking for help is an overindulgence, since they push through the sadness. Symptoms, general sense of sadness, inability to experience joy, loss of appetite, diminished energy, overly self-critical, irritable. Things that help:
Yes.
exercise, stepping outside, talking it out, making time for yourself, meditation, yoga. And it says, let's normalize asking for help.
Yes.
And I will say, like, that's very true. If you go to your doctor and you're like, hi, I'm depressed, and like, great. Well, does it stop you from going to work? No.
Yeah.
Does it stop
You're
you
not
from
sick
seeing your
enough.
kids? Nope.
Oh yeah.
Can you get out of bed? I mean, eventually, most days. Well, you're fine.
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, those are all great points, and I think normalizing depression and those feelings is important, but also acknowledging how hard it is to talk about it, and acknowledge your own depression, and sometimes the fear of burdening others with that feeling of depression and sadness. It happens, but when you get into those headspaces, I think it's important to remember that if your friend was depressed, would you want them to talk about it? And most likely the answer is going to be yes, right? So it's important to remember that your friends and family are there to support you, and so we're always they're always going to be there to listen. But we have people talking in the chat. It wears down my ability to communicate with others. Okay, yes. I do know that anxiety and depression are like siblings. Usually when you have one, sometimes you get the other. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so true.
Yep.
Sometimes depression happens because we can't control the anxiety
Yep.
and we keep trying to, and when we can't do it, we get bummed out about it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I don't know how much more we can cover in this time, but I'll keep moving forward. So we've touched on depression draining the energy, draining our energy, our motivation, and our ability to concentrate on like on the needs of others and sometimes our own needs. And it just makes it hard to do anything when you're feeling so down and depressed. What does depression look like? It can be negative feelings and mood, negative thinking, constantly feeling guilty or unworthy, rejected, angry. Maybe you're always feeling negative about yourself or your ability to achieve, or maybe about COVID and never ending, right? That could be something like a negative thought, or maybe that you believe that you're worthless or unlovable. And, you know, I think that could, you know, hang on, that could, yes. Low energy and motivation, we touched on that. Difficulty concentrating and focusing on schoolwork, on your friends, in class, to even TV, you know, sometimes you're just sitting there and you're staring at the TV, but you're not really paying attention to it. It's experiencing physical problems. Maybe you're gaining a lot of weight or losing a lot of weight, and headaches, or you're not able to sleep, or you're sleeping too much, and social withdrawal. So you're feeling really isolated or lonely and disconnected from people, and it can go unrecognized, like the mention of high functioning depression and anxiety, right? That's exactly what this is about. When it goes unrecognized, it can be because that person is really high functioning. So they're able to continue going about their daily lives, maybe with a smile on, and but inside they feel really lonely or sad, or they feel anxious, really, really anxious. And they, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. People with depression may not realize they are depressed. So sometimes it's hard, right? If you don't have the understanding of or background of mental health, it can be difficult to know the signs. So some folks may not even know they have it. And maybe, you know, it affects someone's mood. So maybe if your mom is really depressed, maybe she's depressed, or feeling really down because she gets really grumpy, or she's less social, or talks less. And sometimes, you know, it can, yeah, so that's, it's just, it can go unrecognized. So when talking about how to help a friend, it's important to be present and listen without judgment. So we've kind of talked about, I'm feeling a little rushed. I feel really bad. Leslie, should we try to continue this next time?
How many slides do you have left?
Like 6 slides.
6 slides?
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably another 20 minutes?
Probably, yeah.
Can people hang in there with us?
You know that some students do have to leave at 3, but the recording will be made available.
do.
So it's up to you guys, whatever you want to do. I will be posting this recording on YouTube for people to review.
Okay.
But there are some people who do need to leave at 3.
Okay.
Okay. Just go as far as you can.
Okay, I'll just keep going. Okay, so how to help a friend. How many people here have heard of the word empathy? Yep. Okay, Christina.
Yeah.
Good. Anyone else? Okay, so when you think about the word empathy, just remember that it's being present with that person who came to you to disclose whatever they're feeling, and listen without judgment. So what that means is a lot of times we're on autopilot and we're thinking, when someone's talking to us, what are we going to say back? But when someone discloses something to you about, maybe I'm feeling really sad, it's good to just sit with them and say, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. What can I do to help? Or sometimes we feel sad sometimes, and that's totally normal. Or, what's going on? Or I'm really worried about you. How's everything going? And those can be some good ways to reach out and ask, but also if someone came to you to talk about it, just remembering that the best thing to do if someone comes to you is to just be present and listen without judgment. And then sometimes trying to understand their situation, right? And how you would feel in that situation. And then helping that person identify what comforts them, what has helped them before, who are some friends and family that they feel comfortable talking to, what has helped before when they've felt down. Maybe, what adults are there that they feel comfortable reaching out to, and would they be willing to contact a crisis line? Those are all, different ways to comfort someone if they feel like they can't cope with what they're feeling. When to seek help, if behavior is getting more extreme, like unintentional injury, risky behavior. I think earlier I said, risky, or what did I say? Something about rash decision making, or so again, if you're starting to make decisions that maybe you're not putting a lot of thought into, and it might be a risk to yourself or others, that would be an example of risky behavior. Doing more drugs or drinking more alcohol. You feel like the problems are getting more intense and they last a long time, or they're getting worse. You're feeling overwhelmed and like you can't help yourself. And maybe, you're feeling like there's a lot of different ways that depression may affect someone, and sometimes hurting themselves or, killing themselves is one. And, if you find yourself or someone saying, I want to give up, or I wish I just didn't wake up, those are all things that I think can happen with depression. And, but it's something that it's okay to talk about, but it's finding someone that you feel safe with and that you trust to talk to. Does anyone have any questions about this slide, or who they like anyone to contact, or anything like that?
I wanted to say something about in your last slide, you said, you can reach out to a crisis line. And, a lot of people hear crisis line and think, oh, this isn't crisis enough to qualify for a crisis line.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to dissuade that thought. And, because the crisis line is really open and available 24 hours a day. I worked for one for 2 hours or for 2 years, 2 hours. Yeah, I worked for one for 2 hours once. Sorry. But they really are like just looking to support people and listen to people.
Yeah. Yes. And there are crisis text lines as well. If you're more comfortable with texting someone for support as well. But crisis lines are a great way to seek support when you're feeling down. And maybe if you're feeling lonely, you can always reach out and talk to someone. There's always someone available on the crisis line.
I'll tell you,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, they're bored. They want the call.
Yeah. So,
And I think they do have a time where it's teenagers that are answering the calls.
Yes, specifically the Thurston County one has a
There's it.
specific teenage line.
Some county too, so.
And
Yeah.
that could be a possible volunteer opportunity for
And I'll tell you.
as well.
uh-oh.
If you wanted to work on the crisis line, if you wanted to volunteer as a peer counsel, peer advisor counselor. I'm not sure what term they use, but they have terms for students like you guys who want to be a person someone else can listen to, and they'll give you training and support for that.
It's fun training. It's great.
Yeah. And it's something that you'll be able to use.
It really
for-
look cool on college applications too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions, or is it okay if I move forward? Okay, cool. I don't know how many students. Okay, we've got a few. So what are ways that some of you cope when you're feeling out of sorts? Like if you're feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, whatever that is. Someone mentioned having family around to kind of motivate them that things will get better was a good way. Does anyone have any other ways that they cope?
Shopping.
Yep. Reading or music.
Funny.
Yeah. For some folks, it can be art. Working on painting or collaging can be a good way to release some emotions that maybe you couldn't put words to. And journaling, right? Journaling is a well-known, well, I don't know if it's well-known, but it is a way to cope.
I mean, walking too.
Especially if you worry a lot in the evening.
Mhm.
If you worry in the evening when you're trying to go to bed, the brain's a funky place, and if it doesn't think you're listening, it's going to lean the doorbell. So when you journal, it's like you empty your brain before you go to bed, so that you're not bringing all of that with you when you're trying to sleep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Movement, I really love.
Mhm. Yeah. Yoga.
Pets.
Mhm.
That's, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, pets are great. Nature, you're getting bare feet in the grass.
Mhm. Yeah. So, I think other ways would be, drinking water. So simple, yet so important, right? Eating healthy, and taking a break from electronic. We're around our electronics all the time now. If we're not doing Zoom calls for school, we're on social media, or we're texting or whatever, so it's good to just maybe take a 10-minute or an hour break. And yeah, make sure that if you do relax, you don't guilt yourself the whole time. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're watching TV, or hanging out with friends or just relaxing, don't, make yourself feel like, oh, I should be doing something else, or I need to be doing this, or, just try to enjoy the relaxation. But yeah, so my final slide, tips and tricks. It's important to acknowledge your feelings when you're experiencing them, and learning to sit with those feelings and process them, or just know that
Yeah.
Retail therapy is real. Even grocery shopping and knowing that my cupboards are full can make me feel in control. Yes, definitely. Yeah, so having that feeling of control in that situation would definitely make you feel more relaxed, right? And knowing when you can go shopping and like that you can buy certain things, and yeah, so and then going back to the tips and tricks, I think reaching out for support, right, would be important. We've mentioned that a few times. And then there's an activity that you could do with some folks or yourself if you feel comfortable. And it's where you identify your green, yellow, and red zone. So when you're feeling really good and you're not feeling very stressed, what does that look like for you? Are you really talkative, extroverted? Do you eat healthier? Do you have a strict routine that you go by? And then when you're in the yellow zone, what does that look like? Maybe you are, I'm trying to think of an example.
Or getting snappy.
Yeah, are getting snappy. Or maybe you're not making enough time for yourself to eat, or you're not making the time to go for walks or to see your friends or talk to them. And that might be a yellow zone. And then a red zone would be like maybe you're starting to worry about something all the time, or you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not feeling like you're getting restful sleep. Or maybe you're eating a lot more, or maybe you're just feeling really tired and not motivated. And then the next part of that would be, if you have someone help you write this plan, it's kind of fun because sometimes they'll identify things that they notice about you, especially family that you live with, that maybe you wouldn't have noticed yourself. So it can be pretty helpful if you feel comfortable, and if you feel comfortable talking to your parents about it, or brothers or sisters or whoever. And then having a plan, right? So now that you know and have identified those zones, what is your plan for when things are starting to get bad, and when should you address it? Should you address it when you're, in bed and thinking negative and have no motivation, or should you address it when you're noticing that you're overeating more, or you notice that you're noticing that that you're worrying a lot more? So it's important to know what is your coping skill to use, and what works. And having a plan will make it easier. And yeah, so I think that's it. Trying to think, is there anything anyone wants to add?
I wanted to add one thing about just feeling like your problems aren't as bad as everybody else's. That's one of the most common things that we see as counselors. People will come in with depression and anxiety and say, but I know people have it a lot worse than me, and I don't want to take somebody else's spot. And, maybe I shouldn't come. And you're the one that's living in your body, and you're the one that's having that experience. Mm-hmm. So how you're feeling and thinking is really important, and just as important as anybody else. And plus, You're all saying the same things. Somebody deserves the help, right? And I think you are probably the one if you feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very well said.
Wonderful. Okay. Just a quick check-in. How's everyone feeling? Good? Okay. Good.
Let's see if there's any other questions in there.
Good. Okay. Great. I really appreciate everyone showing up, and I hope if there was one thing that they could get out of this is that, it's important to talk about what you're going through and experiencing. and also to be there if someone opens up to you, right? And to offer that support to your friends and family. But yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for this
How cool is
presentation.
it that you're doing this now? Yeah. I mean, I think it's really cool that you're doing this now. We also see plenty of people that are in their 50s, and now they're saying, I really should do something about this anxiety. But you're actually learning about it now, so you're already ahead of it. So I think that's really cool. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Have a great day.